And let me share my screen. Okay. So first of all, when we talk about integration, people think it is too complex or how do we do it? There are different depending upon what your requirement is. Do you want the integration to happen right away? Do you want to do it like asynchronously, synchronously? There are different ways of doing it. Do you want to do bulk processing or single record, etc.? So before we get into integration, let's first understand what is a web service. Okay. A web service allows two different systems to communicate over the internet using a standard protocol, like it could be an HTTP protocol. Protocol is basically some set of guidelines they have set up. Okay. So in order for two systems to communicate with each other, what they do it with the help of a web service. Okay. So let's say this system understands a language of JSON, or we can say English, and let's say, and this system understands language which is only Chinese. Okay. So in order to communicate, or let's say this is not even English, or let's say this person is French. Okay. Now, in order to communicate, they need to follow a particular standard. Okay, so what they say is that this person also, French also knows English, Chinese also knows English, so they're going to communicate in a common language called English. So web service basically allows you to talk to a system or two different systems to communicate over the internet. Now, one of the very good example, and I've given this example earlier, is API, right? So what is an API? It is an application programming interface. And let's say you have this, and the example of is a restaurant. You go to a restaurant, you don't go to the kitchen and talk to the chef and place the order with the chef. You go to the restaurant, you sit at a table, the waiter is going to come, get your order, and then he's going to go and place the order at the kitchen counter. The chef is going to prepare the food, and then chef is not going to bring the food back. The chef is going to give the food to the waiter, and waiter is the one who's going to bring to the table. So you are only talking to that waiter, right? You're only communicating with that waiter, and waiter knows how to bring the food, where he should place the order, and all of that. So an API is basically an interface that you communicate. It accepts a request, okay? It accepts a request and it gives you back a response, okay? So generally, you just need to know what is the format of the request that you need to send to, and then it is going to generate a response by either talking to another system or whatever it is, and it's going to give you back a response, okay? So when two systems communicate through a web service, you don't need to know what programming language they're built on, what is the operating system, what platform. They just follow a common standard which both understand and they're able to communicate. In Salesforce, web services allow you to send information from Salesforce to an external system and from external system into Salesforce. Okay, so when you work in the real world, what usually has started to happen is now you have a middle layer called MuleSoft, right? So what MuleSoft does is basically you can think of it like all the requests that originates from Salesforce. Let's say Salesforce needs to talk to order processing system, okay? Then it also needs to talk to an ERP system. There's another system. Now, Salesforce is not going to write code in order to talk to order directly, right? It can do that. Now, Salesforce can also needs to communicate to this system, then Salesforce has to write code to connect with ERP, right? Now, what kind of flaws do you see with this kind of interaction? What do you think that can there? What are the things that can go wrong if you do something like this? Think about it, like
The different formats between the two, how they would accept, in other words, instructions.
so Salesforce will have to write code to connect to this system and has to send the request in the format this system accepts, right? Similarly, Salesforce has to write code in order to see what ERP is expecting, and and he has to write, Salesforce has to write code to do that, right? To, let's say, this Salesforce expects an XML or JSON, and they're looking in the XML, so they need to convert it, right? So Salesforce has to do too much of coding in order to connect. Now, tomorrow, let's say they change something at their end. Now, Salesforce has to go back and rewrite everything to make the other, the new, to work around with the new changes. So it's very high maintenance, right? And this is a point-to-point communication, right? And if tomorrow you have to talk to another system, you have to send, then you have to write code for that system also. So now, what this MuleSoft does, it removes all of this. So Salesforce talks to MuleSoft. Salesforce only needs to know how to connect with MuleSoft. And then MuleSoft can transform the request, whichever format the other system. And then MuleSoft can connect to the ERP system, can connect to the order system, can connect to another system. So then it removes the dependency. So, and MuleSoft is a low-code solution. You don't have to know coding to become a MuleSoft developer. You basically need to know what is the request I need to send to them and what kind of response they're expecting. So I can transform that into whatever format the other system is expecting. So this is much easier to maintain. So majority of the app companies that you're going to work with, they're going to have some kind of layer, and most probably it might be MuleSoft. So now let's say you wanted to, but there are other, so MuleSoft is one. Now, coming back to web services, Salesforce has two main types of web services. Okay. So the web services can be written in the REST web services, and the other one we have is the SOAP. Okay. SOAP is pretty heavy. It is XML based. And also this SOAP, usually in the legacy systems, in the banking, you will still see SOAP, but now everything is being using REST APIs. Okay. Now, REST APIs are easy to write, lightweight. They accept requests in XML, JSON, whereas SOAP only works in XML. Now, do you know what is the difference between an XML and a JSON? Yes or no?
JSON is a key value pair,
Very good.
and XML is like open
Close
back.
braces. Okay. Yeah, it is basically, there's nothing, it is the way of sending data. Okay. So XML usually you will write it in these kind of tags. They will be like the
markup language.
And then you will have tags, and then inside of this, you're going to send information. Whereas JSON is a key value pair. It is basically, you will have, let's say, name. Then let's say name is Deepika. Then if you wanted to send age, you will have another key called age, and then you will enter the age as well. Then you have company. So this is how it's a JSON. This is a JSON format, and the similar information, if you have to set here, you're going to say name, and then you're going to pass in Deepika. You're going to have a closing tag here, name. Then another one would be age. That will be whatever the age it is. And then there will be a closing tag, like an HTML style. So that's an XML. Now, what is a SOAP? SOAP basically is a protocol, very strict and rule-based, used for communication between systems. So it's a way of communicating between two systems. The key characteristics is it uses XML only, has a fixed structure. Okay, it has to have like a proper structure. It relies on WSDL file, which is a contract that you have to follow, and heavily used by big companies, banking, and legacy systems. So now not many applications or the systems are using SOAP. Now they have moved over to REST, but you still need to know here and there how to create a SOAP web service. Okay, a legal contract where both systems must follow exact rules. So you have to make sure that both the systems have to follow an exact rule in order to communicate via SOAP. So SOAP message, when we talk about the communication, you have to send a message, right? From one system generates the message and you send it to another system. So that will have an envelope, okay? It will have header information, and then it will have body. Three parts should be there. An envelope should be there, a header should be there, and body should be there. Now, in the header, you're going to basically specify what kind of authentication mechanism, session ID, security, metadata, all these things. Now, why do we need all this information? Why do we need authentication, right? Now, you can't just call another system and send whatever data you want, right? First, you have to make yourself authenticated that are you okay to even send requests to that system? Okay, so that authentication is very, very important. You have to authorize, are you an authorized user to make that call? So you have to have some kind of authentication. Most of the APIs require an authentication mechanism. You have to first tell them, I'm okay to send you request. Okay, you can accept my request because I have the access key for your system. And the reason I have the access key because I have registered with your system. I know what your system is all about. So I'm an authorized user. So that authentication is very important. And if let's say that system requires a key or for authentication and you're not sending that key or you are not giving the right key, then you won't be able to make the call. So the first step in making a call, you have to first set up some authorization points. Okay. So we will see how to authorize and all of that. So here the actual request that you have to send will be through the inside of the body. Okay, so what are we going to do here is we are going to create a web service, okay? And that web service we will invoke through our postman, okay? And when you do it through the postman, you will see that, okay, that request came here and then you got a response back. So all of that we will see. Now, how to create a SOAP web service. So the example is, we will do that, but now you have to define a class with the keyword web service, and the class needs to be annotated, and even the methods needs to be annotated with the where is it? Yeah, the class has to be global and the methods have to use the keyword web service in them in order to create a SOAP service. Okay, so you will go ahead and create a SOAP service, and that SOAP service we will invoke through the postman. Now you can also invoke through another system, another external system can call. Now, if let's say you have written some APIs at your end, okay? Now you can create a REST API, or you can also create a SOAP API. Now, the class in this case, it should always be global. Now, the reason it needs to be global because you're calling it from an external system. Remember, we talked about the access modifiers. We have public, protected, global, etc. So you need to be marked with the global because this is being called from external system. So the way to create a SOAP service and the way to create a REST service is different. So if let's say there is system one, okay? System one, and then there is a system two. Now, let's say system one needs to call system two. So where will you create the API? Will you create the API at system one or will you create the API at system two? If system one needs to call system two, how will this communication happen?
System 1 to system 2?
No. So system one is making a call to system two. So the API that you have to, because you have to give this system one how to make the call, right? Which URL to hit. So system two is where the REST API will be. Okay, and system one will have the logic to how to make the call. Remember that HTTP request that we made? We did several examples related to that, creating an HTTP request, setting up an endpoint, setting up the method. We'll actually use http.send. So that code will go in system one. And this one will have your web services created. And based upon what call you are making, that specific web service will be called. Are you getting my point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the REST APIs or SOAP APIs will be at the system 2 level, and system 1 is the one making the call to those APIs. Any questions? Okay, now out of the box also, Salesforce have these APIs already built. And if, let's say, another system wants to hit your API, they don't have to basically ask you to create a brand new API for that object. You already have some out of the box for every standard object and for every custom object. So what do I mean by that is, for example, if you go over to Postman, and if you go to the standard, I've created some requests here. So this is the endpoint you will hit, /services/data. The versioning account is the record, and this is the ID of the account record you're trying to hit. So this API is not something that you created. This API is given to you by Salesforce itself. And when you make a call to this API, okay, this is so what you're going to do is you're going to tell the other system, hey, hit this API. Now that API, if you go ahead and send, it is going to fetch the account information, and this is the response it is going to give you. Similarly, if let's say I wanted to call another object, case. So what I'll do is I'll just replace this account with case, and I will provide the ID of that case record that I want to fetch the information. So these APIs are out of the box given to you. Similarly, if you want to create a new record, so that system will hit this endpoint and will send a post request. Okay, so now we have different types of requests. Get request, you can send it through Postman, post request, patch request, put request, and delete request. Now, tell me what is the difference between each of them? So there could be a get request that you can make. There could be a post request you can make. There could be a put request you can make. There could be a patch request, or they can be a delete request. Now, what is the difference between each one of them? Do you know? Remember when we are setting up those HTTP protocols, HTTP, these are nothing but HTTP method. HTTP is a protocol that is used to communicate over the internet. So HTTP protocol supports some methods, and it supports methods like get. Whenever you have to retrieve something, you're going to always use a get request. Okay, this is the method name.
Get is read only, right?
Get is read only, which means that it is only going to fetch the data. It is not going to create anything at the other end. Okay.
Yeah.
Post is something whenever you have to create a new
Send the
record
data.
or then you will always use a post request. Read only doesn't have a body. Sorry, get request doesn't have a body. Post request will have a body. Okay. What is a put request? So put request is like an upsert. So either you can update the record or you can insert it through put itself, and it will figure out if you are passing the ID, it will do an update. If you are not passing or the ID doesn't exist, then it would be an insert operation. Patch is if you want to update something. Let's say the person's home address needs to be updated. So you're going to make a patch call for that. Delete, if you want to delete something at the other end, then you will use a delete request. So similar to this, you will have these methods: get request, post request, put request, patch request, and delete request. Okay, so if I tell you, hey, I wanted to create a new account. So what kind of method will you use here? You will use a post method, okay, and you will pass in the a JSON to create a new account record, and the other system will just hit this endpoint and will be able to create a account record. So for the regular simple calls, or if you don't want, when you are creating an account record, if you don't want opportunity to be created or contact to be created, if you are okay with the standard API, you can just give those APIs to the end user or to that external system, and they'll hit that. But let's say if you're expecting the API should create account, contact, opportunity all together, then in that case, you will have to create a custom API at the Salesforce end, and that other system will now call the custom API. Okay. First of all, did you understand why, in what scenarios we need to create a custom API versus using the Salesforce out of the box APIs? Guys, if you're not understanding something, please speak up, because if you don't ask me questions, I'll keep on moving. Okay, so now tell me, when are you going to use standard REST APIs? And does these APIs only exist for standard objects, or do they also exist for custom object?
Both.
Exactly. So Salesforce gives you out of the box APIs as well. Okay. So if they already give you out of the box, why do you need to create a custom API?
To do multiple ones, to do like the count, the context, everything at one time.
Exactly. So that is when you will use a custom API. So this standard API, see here, if I'm making a call, I'm making a call to fetch me the account information of this account. So it only gives me account information. Now, let's say in this response, I also want the opportunities tied to this account or the contacts tied to this account. Then what will I need to do? I can't do it from the regular call, because this only gives me account information. So then I might not need to write another custom API, which will give me account, the related opportunities, related all of that information. Okay. Similarly, if I want, right now, this is giving me the account information. Let's say I wanted to make a post call. So this is how you will make a post call. So the method name would be post. This is your endpoint, the complete endpoint. So the other system is going to hit this endpoint. Okay. And then it will make a request. So let's say we're creating a new name is called Amazon. Phone number is this, and let's say retail. Now, what's going to happen is so today, how many records are there? So if I log into Salesforce, and if I log into my org, data export. So let's say if I say how many accounts got created today. So total, I have 3 accounts right now, the ones that are created today. So now if I hit this request, what will happen is it will create another account, and this is the ID. So now if I run this export again, now a 4th record got created with the name Amazon. So this is what kind of request it is? It is a post request. Now, similarly, if you want to delete something, all you have to do is you copy the ID of the record you want to delete. So the other system will give you the ID, and then it will go ahead and do a delete call. So here I'm going to save as, and let's make a delete call. And in the delete call, what's going to happen is it's going to delete a particular record. Okay, so here I'm going to use the method delete. I'll pass in the ID. So that record will get deleted now. Okay, so now if I go ahead and run this, you will see that account got deleted. Okay, so these are the different methods. Now, if you want a different response, which is not the standard API response, in that case, you will create a custom API. Now, coming back to the SOAP web services. So first thing you need to do is you need to create a class which is going to be global. You cannot create a class marked as public, because public is only within a particular namespace. Now, this web service will be called by another system. So Postman is the one calling this web service. So now what's going to happen is you have to mark the class as global. Everything would be global, and the methods will use the keyword web service. Okay. And then, so here is my class I'm creating, account SOAP service. So I'm going to go here and we will go over to the developer console. Let me see, I already have one. So let's just first delete the class. And in the real world, when you go, you will not, 80% of the time you are going to see REST calls, but I have to teach you because you should know the other ones as well.
How do you know which one to use? I mean, in what circumstances?
If you require, if it is a heavy, more security is needed, or if it is, it's a SOAP are more legacy based. So the older applications might be still using SOAP web services, but the newer applications, if you need to build an API, you will go with the REST because, and also when you are not hitting, and if you only way of communication is XML, okay, no JSON. So in those scenarios, you're going to use a SOAP web service, which only because SOAP web services only supports XML. They don't support JSON.
JSON. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so now going back here to the developer console, let's say we create a new class file, new Apex class, SOAP service, and over here we will define a method and we will mark it as global. So now let's first understand the, okay. So what I've done here is I've created a class. I have global with sharing, means it is going to take into consideration the security of the user who is running it. And then this is an inner class. It is just to give you back the response. Okay. Now there is a method created with the keyword web service. It's a static method, and this is the create account is the name of the method, and it is taking in 3 parameters: name, phone, and industry. So from Postman, you will send name, phone, and industry of the account you want to create. And then you are just creating that account at this end. And then this is the response is going to be the account ID and the message saying account created successfully. Simple. So it is expecting a request which is XML type, and it is expecting 3 pieces of information: the name of the account you want to create, the phone number associated with it, and what type of industry the account belongs to. And then in the response, these are the 2 things it is going to send you back. Now, this is your custom API, right? So, and from Postman, you can't just call the Salesforce without authorizing yourself. Okay, so you have to provide some way of authorizing yourself. Postman has to tell that, okay, I know I'm okay to make a call to Salesforce. So what you have to do is, this is how the request should look like. Okay, there are different ways of authentication. One is username, password, then there is JWT token, then there is OAuth mechanism. There are different ways of make authorizing yourself. So for example, in this case here, I am making a call. So let's go here. This is the, I need to pass in this session ID. Okay, now how do I get this session ID? Because I have to, because this is expecting me to send a session ID. Now, how do I get session ID? So first you have to make a call to this endpoint OAuth. So we are using OAuth mechanism to authorize ourselves. And in order to get these, to authorize ourselves, we need to get the client ID, we need to get the client key, client secret, all of that. Now, where will you pass all this information? How will you get the client ID, client secret? So in order to make, another system can't just directly hit Salesforce. the other system first needs to authorize themselves. So one of the ways that you can use is OAuth to or get an access token, and then you can do it. So first thing what you have to do, can anybody tell me how will I get client ID and client secret? Guys, if you are coming from a little bit of Salesforce background, you should know how to get client ID and client secret.
Is that a name credential or no? Or something? Do you
No.
have to set it up in Salesforce?
You have to set it up. So see, let's say the other system needs to hit Salesforce. Okay. Now another system needs to hit Salesforce. So Salesforce needs to authorize. You should be authorized to hit Salesforce. So what you will do is, and this is a common thing, when another system, an external system, needs to make a call to Salesforce, first of all, Salesforce needs to give them few things. One is client ID, okay, client secret, and depending upon what kind of authentication mechanism you guys following, okay? And one of the secured one is client ID and client secret. Now, how will I get this client ID and client secret? So Salesforce has to create a connected app at the end.
External
Okay.
ID?
No, connected app.
Okay.
Okay. When you create a connected app, what's going to happen is when you create a connected app, you will get client ID and client secret. That is the client ID and client secret. You share it with your external team, with your other team. Okay. What they will do, then they will use this client ID and client secret to get an access token. So first step is this is the step you have to follow. First, Salesforce has to create a client connected app. Okay. The Salesforce side has to do is to create a connected app. When Salesforce creates a connected app, it will generate client ID and client secret. These are all the ways to authorizing yourself, authorizing the other system. Okay. This will generate client ID. Now the external system, external system will use the client ID and client secret, okay, to generate an access token. Okay, they will hit this first, they will hit this URL, they will get an access token. Then once they retrieve the access token, then they will make the subsequent calls of actually making that SOAP API call. And then they have to pass this access token along with that request. And this is how access token will know that, okay, you are a valid individual, valid system who is okay to make request. Okay, now if you remember, guys, this is outside of Salesforce. Let's say, do you remember what HTTP is, a stateless or a stateful protocol? First of all, tell me. Is it a stateless or stateful? HTTP. This is a computer science question back in when you were doing engineering. Is it a stateless or stateful?
Stateless.
Okay. What is the meaning of stateless? What is the meaning of stateless?
Each request is like a new thing, and I mean, it is a whatever the last transaction was, it is not dependent on it, and
Very good. But okay, so now let's say you are so how does it remember? It doesn't, you don't keep asking, you don't keep tell. Let's say you make a call to another system and you logged in there, okay? And it doesn't keep asking you for username password with every request. Why is that?
it doesn't store any information about the request.
Yeah, but then how does it remember you that you are the only person who made the previous request?
With the cookies, sessions.
Exactly. So the same way, this access token, think of it like a way to telling that, okay, this access token is for authorization purposes, that okay, you are okay and you can make the call. And just like So what is the meaning of stateless? Did everybody understood what Manisha said?
Can you please explain again, Deepika, about stateless?
Okay. So basically, every HTTP request, okay, is a stateless request. Stateless, the meaning of stateless is that every request that you make to the server, it is considered as an individual request. It doesn't remember what was the previous request you made. Okay, but at a user end, you get a feel that, okay, this person knows, the server knows that, okay, I am Shweta and I made this previous call. Now I'm asking the next thing, because they will either send back the cookies, and that is the cookies will send you back in the subsequent request. That's where the server knows, okay, this was the person I already communicated before through sessions. So there are different ways of remembering your state, but every HTTP request is a stateless request. That means they don't remember if you made two calls, request one and request two. Manisha first asked, give me all my products that I have in the cart, okay, and then you are making another call. So this request and this request is completely independent of each other, but the way it remembers it, either through cookies or through saving it, I don't know the whole mechanism, but the server will find ways to remember you. But every HTTP request is a stateless. So whenever external system needs to call you, first they need to send client ID and client secret. So when you're working in the real world, they ask you, hey, I want to call Salesforce. Okay. They will ask you for a couple of things: a username, password. They might ask you for client ID, client secret. How will you generate all of that? So first of all, you will create a API user, okay, API user for that system. Okay, that to track that, okay, the request is coming from this system. You're not going to share your username and password. You're going to create an API user. You're going to share that API user's credentials. And then that system can use username password flow, which is too basic, okay, and it's not recommended. The other one is through the client credential flow, where you will enter the client ID and client secret. So this client ID and client secret you will generate through the connected app. Okay. So how to generate the connected app? Has anybody before created a connected app, guys? Has anybody created a connected app in Salesforce? Yes, no,
No, no.
No.
no. Nobody? Okay, so this is the first kind of lecture you're gonna see. So now we will go over to App Manager. And you will have to create, you might use the same app for different integrations, but ideally you should create it separate ones so that they're independent of each other. Okay, so here we will go ahead and use this button. So I went over to App Manager. You'll click on New External Client App. Okay, now when you click on it, let's say we call this as Postman. And you will probably name another system as that request. Okay, so here, email. And then you will say enable OAuth. So we are enabling OAuth. Give a callback URL. Callback URL could be anything. So we'll just give HTTPS login.salesforce.com. Okay, now what kind of scopes you want to give? So you have to be very careful that other system, what kind of scope, what kind of access you want. So you want to give them full access. Okay. You wanted to give them this access, which is perform requests at any time. This is that they have access to refresh token, offline access. So you want to give that access. You also want to give them what else? You can give everything else, but you should be careful when you're giving these kind of scopes. Manage user data via APIs. So manage user data via APIs. You want to give them this access. And I believe this should be good enough. These are all the scopes. And in some cases, if you don't, I'm going to move everything. So these are some scopes, and these are the bare minimum you have to give them. Then you will enable client credentials flow, because this is the way they are going to make the call. So you're enabling that flow. And then we're going to go ahead and click create. Okay. Once you click create, you want to change few things. So we'll go ahead and click edit here. And all users can self-authorize, leave it as it is, enable the client credentials flow, run as this user. So you have to provide your username, or you will provide that API username. So run as this username. Refresh token is valid until revoked. So you don't keep changing the refresh token so that the request keeps coming. IP restrictions, you want to relax them. So these are certain settings you have to do. So basically, permitted user means who can make the request to your system. So all users can self-authorize them. One option is this. Then the other option is admin has to approve those users first. We don't want to do that. The other option here it is, what is the refresh token policy? So either it could be expire refresh token after specific time, expire refresh token if not used for specific time. So maintaining the security, you can select some of the better policies. To keep things simple, I'm selecting this policy, which is refresh token is valid until we revoke that refresh token. And then we're going to hit.
So, Deepika,
Yeah, go ahead.
one question. So the user, right? So can multiple connected apps, right, use the same user? Because connected app is going to be different for different
Yeah,
external
integrated
systems.
user can be same.
Same, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So here, then this is what you do, and then what do you see here under the settings? Under OAuth settings, here is your consumer key and secret. Okay, so first you create a connected app, then you generate the connect. Once you create the connected app, you get client ID and secret. Then here is your consumer key and secret. You click on it, it'll ask you for a verification code. Let me get the verification code here. And this is my verification code. I'll put it over here, click verify. And this is your consumer key and consumer secret. Okay, always remember this. Keep it safe, consumer key and consumer secret. Okay, so let me just leave this open. So now, first of all, I have gotten these consumer key and consumer secret, right? So I can go ahead and use this consumer key and consumer system. This you will share with the external system, not in Salesforce. These keys you will share with your team, the external team, who is making the call to Salesforce. And then the first call they have to do is to this endpoint, which is the access token endpoint. This is the call. This is the one, /services/OAuth2/token. Now, when you make the call, you put the client ID. Client ID is this one. So this is your consumer key, is your client ID. So copy that. Make sure, 1 second, guys. Okay, guys, I need to come in like 5 minutes. Is that okay? I'll be back in like 5 minutes. Just hold on. I'll be there. Okay. Okay, guys, I am back. So now, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now here we are going to replace the client ID. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And this is my client ID and copy the consumer secret. So the other team is going to save this. And this is the client ID and the client. This doesn't change. Okay. So now, and this is the endpoint they will hit first. So once you hit this, you do a send. See, this is not using username password flow. This is using client credentials. So here you get the access token. So this is the access token they need to send in the subsequent request. Okay. So we'll copy this. And if you, let's say they want to make the call the SOAP service. So this is the SOAP service. So this is how they will be sending a SOAP request. So we had created the account SOAP service. Inside of this, there is a method called create account. And that method is expecting name, phone, and industry. And this is the session header. This is how you have to send the request. And remember, I told you, you have an envelope. Inside of the envelope, you will have a header and body. So this is the access token. We need to replace it. And now if you replace this, let's say we create an account called Google. And this is also technology. How many account records do we have? We have total of 3 account records. Now, if I hit this, I'm expecting a 201 response. So you can see a 200 response came and the account got successfully created. And so now if I go here and you will go and do a request, you will see a Google account got created. Okay, so this is how the SOAP call is made. You will go ahead and use the way to create a SOAP call is you use the classes global. Methods should be with the keyword web service, and they should be static methods. Now we made a post request. Similarly, you can create a get request, you can create a delete request, you can do all of that. You'll create a different method name, and that is the method name you will use in order to make that connection. Any questions here, guys? I'm going to tell you what are all the steps again. So tell me when you're making a call to the other system, what all things you will need to do. First thing would be at Salesforce side, what you need to do.
Create connected app.
Create a connected app. Okay. Then once you create the connected app, what's going to happen?
Client ID and
Client secret would be created.
client secret created. Yeah.
Okay. Then you are going to
Need,
use, yeah.
integration user.
Yes, we
Okay.
need integration user because you don't want to see here. We didn't need to use a integration user, right? Yes, you probably need it because we selected
Yeah.
the name. Yeah. Integration.
Yeah. Question is, Deepika, is when we give the full access, is the full access dependent on the access level that the integration user has?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So integration user is there, and then you have is the then after you do the client ID, client secret, then the other system is going to make the call to get the access token, and then those requests needs to have this access token in the subsequent calls. Okay.
So does the integration user get created once the client, the secret is completed?
No,
once
you will have to create it from user object.
Okay.
Just like you create a new user, you will have to create a integration user as well. The profile should be very similar to a system admin profile. It depends on what kind of access you want to give it. So just like you create any regular user, you will create an integration user.
Okay.
Okay.
And Deepika, another question. So in an multi environment, right? So where multiple external systems are there. So as a Salesforce, right? So we are creating 2 connected apps and then giving it to 2 external teams, and then they are performing the same action, but with same integration user. How can we differentiate the calls or whatever the accounts getting
That was
created?
the only issue. That is the issue when you have one integration user for everything. Then
Yeah.
if you wanted to track down or debug something, then you will have to find a way to how to differentiate between those requests.
So there is no way to differentiate with the client ID or the secret.
No, because that is not going to be coming. The request is going to come
Okay.
from the user itself. Those you won't see it in the logs. You will only
Okay.
see the request came. And then you will also see if you go to the login history, right? If you go here, this is a very good way to debug statements. Okay, so if you go to users,
So the debug log.
yes. So here you can set up the debug logs for that person. Also, if you go here and if you click on login history, you will see through Postman a call was made. Okay, so then if there is a issue with something, then you will see that okay, the token was failed or something got failed, and then you will see those requests coming in through that user. So you'll go to the integration user, and then for that user, you will set up a debug log. So you'll go to the debug logs, and then here you will create a debug log. You will select your user, which will be integration user. You select the dog level, and then you will be able to see what kind of request came with from that user, and you can debug those requests. Okay. Any questions, guys? Now, this is your SOAP call we made. Now, similarly, you can do a REST call as well. Okay. So in the case of REST call, you will have to define a endpoint, right? You have to define a URL mapping. Before I jump over to the REST, anybody has any questions from the previous topics that we created? Okay. Now, next one is in order to create a REST API, you will have to first define this REST resource. Okay. This resource is basically, this REST resource is the one that you will define, and you will specify the mapping, which means that anytime a request comes with accounts and have this V1 and anything after that will land over to this Apex class. Okay. So if let's say you have another Apex class, which is another REST resource, then you have to provide a different URL mapping. So then you can't have two resources having the same mapping, because then at the runtime, how will they know which resource to invoke? So always keep it unique to that particular resource only. Now, then what you're going to have is you're going to define these different annotations, HTTP post. For a post request. Let me create this so then it will be much more clear, and then we will explain each of these methods. So here I'll go to the Apex classes. Let me see if I have deleted one. Okay, now we'll go to the developer console, create a new file, close all, file, new Apex class. Okay, the class needs to be global because it is also being from the external system. So copy all of this. And then here you have different methods. Okay. So now here, let's see what this class is doing. So first of all, I have created the account REST service. Now you will only create these REST resources when out of the box APIs are not giving you the result you want. Okay. Only in that case, you will create your own APIs, but most of the time those APIs will work. Now, if you wanted to create your own REST API, you will first of all use the annotation REST resource. Then you will provide a URL mapping. And this for accounts, it'll be account/v1. For cases, it'll be cases/v1, whatever it is. Then this is your request should be in this account create request. So if you're creating a post call, then you're expecting the same name, phone, industry. This is nothing but your wrapper classes. And this is the response that it is going to give you back. It will have ID, message, and some data. Now, how will it differentiate which particular method to call, right? So here is a create account method, then this is a get account method, this is a patch request, this is a delete. The way is depending upon what annotation you have used. So if it is a post annotation on that method, means from the external system, we will make a post call, then that request will come to this post method. Okay. If you have made a get request from that resource, get request from Postman, then you are going to invoke this particular method, which is get account. If you're making a patch request, then this method will be called. If you're making a delete request, then this method will be called. So depending upon what kind of method you are invoking from Postman, here, that's the kind of request you are going to get. Okay. So here, what am I doing in the, as I mentioned, it's a post request. So I will be creating a new account record. So I'm expecting something in the body. So here, what I've done is whatever is in the body, I'm converting it into a string. Okay. And then this is the create account. Okay. So this, if the string is blank, then you will basically give back a response of 400 and you will say a message is request body is required if they are not sending any body. If they sent a body, then you will first deserialize that body into this request. Okay, so from here you will get the name, you will get the phone, and you will get the industry, right? This is the same JSON.deserialize we've been using, and it will convert the JSON into the this particular object, which is account create request, which has three things: name, industry, and phone. Okay. If the request after deserializing is null, then the same response you're going to give saying that name is required or something. If this is name is itself is required, because name is a required field. So if they gave a body, but they didn't put a name, then you want to send a different message. Now, if everything looks good, we are creating an account based on the information that was sent in the body of the request. Okay. And then what we're doing is we are creating our response back. So this is you're setting up the ID of the response with the ID of the newly created account. Message would be this, and the data would be that account record that you created, and the status code is 201, and you're returning back that response. Now, when anything happens, then this is the catch block it will call. Now, how do you invoke this method? So the way to invoke it, the same exact thing that we did for SOAP, we have to do it for REST. Okay. So we got the access token. So let's say we get this access token, copy it, and we will go to the REST post call. Okay. And this should be the endpoint. So if you see here, you will use Apex REST services / Apex REST accounts is our URL mapping, and then V1. And here we passed in three things: name, phone, and industry. So here, let's say the name is J&J. This is the name. This is the phone number. Industry is retail. So now what's going to happen is this will be sent. If you go over to the headers, you will see content type is application /JSON, and the access token is, this is where you have to put the access token. So I'm going to copy paste the access token that I retrieved in the SOAP call. I'm putting that access token, and we're going to go ahead and hit send here. And you will see an account created successfully. Okay, you can see here account created successfully. That is the message it gave. This is the ID of the newly created account. And basically it gave you back the exact data that it had. Now, if you go over here, you will see a new account record got created with the name J&J. You can see here, this is the newly created account. So what happened behind the scene? A call was made from Postman to your Salesforce org, and it created the account. So I'm using Postman, but you can make the same exact call from another Salesforce instance also. Okay, so as an assignment, what you're going to do is I'm making the calls through Postman. Okay, now you will be making the call from another. Let's create two Salesforce orgs. So one is Salesforce org and the other one is also a Salesforce org, because you might not have another system. So we'll create two Salesforce org. From one Salesforce org, we will create our this same REST resource. You can create the same exact one. And then from here, you will make the call to this endpoint. So first you have to use the access token to authorize and all of that, you will do it. So that is your, for whole week, you can use ChatGPT, you can use whatever, but you should know what you are doing. Okay. So from one Salesforce org, you will be making the call to another Salesforce org and getting the results back. Are you guys clear with the assignment? And if you have done one, you can do any integrations. It's just the way of authentication might be different, but everything else behind the scene will be same. Okay. Now, similarly, I have created a GET request. Okay, so you will see a GET request. So how will I make a GET request? So in the case, this is my HTTP post. Now, if I have to make a GET request, it is expecting me to pass in an account ID. So, and then once it passes the account ID, it is checking, hey, is the ID contains 001, which means any account record has the ID starts with 001. So if you pick up any account records, you will see the ID starts with 001. So here it is checking, hey, does the ID starts with this? If it doesn't, then means you have not provided the valid ID. So that's the message you will get back. Otherwise, it will make a call and it will fetch all these fields of the account object where the ID is equals to the ID that you passed and in the URL itself. And then you're giving the response back. So here, if I do a GET call, so okay, so if I make a call to this endpoint, this is the ID I'm using. And from my postman, I will go over to the REST and I will first of all copy the ID and put it here and make sure there is no spaces. And you also need to update the token. Okay, so here, what was the token? So if I go here, the token was, this was the token. So here in the REST call, make sure there is no spaces because if you give a space, it might not work. It actually won't work. And then you replace the token with the bearer and then enter send. So it gave you back the REST. It's you're making a GET request to this endpoint and giving you back a response. Similarly, you will have a post method, delete method. So did you understand? How will you make the call? The only difference would be from the postman. Everything else would be the same. Any questions, guys?
Deepika, in Postman, how we will get all the, if you go to yeah, in the left side, you have like the get, post, all these notes, right? How we will get those?
Oh, these ones?
Yeah.
Oh, so I just saved it. So if you go here, let's say I create whatever I made a call, I just saved it. I created some folders. So if you see here, you create a new here, and then you will create no, not here. You will create a collection here. So I created 3 collections. So this is my weekend batch. So I created whichever calls I made, I just saved it and I gave it a name. That's it.
Okay.
Okay,
Do you
simple.
have the standalone Postman or the
This is a
web?
standalone Postman.
Oh,
But you can use the web version
web
also, but
version.
I have an application installed on my computer.
Okay.
Okay. But your assignment is not from Postman. Your assignment is from the another Salesforce org. Okay. So now here, this is your GET request. So it gave you back the ID, it gave you back the name, phone, industry, all of this information. And this is the URL you're going to make. /services, Apex REST accounts is the name of the URL mapping, V1, and then you're passing in the ID. Okay. If you are making if you go back here to this, so this was your, now here is your patch. Patch means it is expecting an account. And if you want to update something on that account, you want to update the type, you want to update the industry or anything you want to update, that's when you will use a patch method. So it is same as it will have a body. Okay, and whatever you want to update, you will pass in there. So here we are updating the name, phone, industry. So if I go here and pass in the body, so let's go to this account. So we go here to the export. let's say this is the account. So I'm going to go ahead and paste it, Control C, go to my this, and let's just do a duplicate of this call, duplicate, and then here I will call this one as patch call. So we'll call it as REST patch call. And here it's a patch method. So I'll select patch, passed in the ID that I want. And then in the body, you will pass in a raw JSON. And here you will pass in a couple of things. So if you go to the, what was the post method? Yeah, so here I'll just get from the body itself, I will get these things, go to the patch, paste it here. Okay, and the name I will call it as Johnson and Johnson. Phone number is 89. This is the phone number, and technology is the industry. So you are doing a patch. So this record will be updated. So you'll see here, this is the patch request, account updated successfully. If you go here right now, it says REST account postman. If you run it, it will say Johnson and Johnson. So it'll say Johnson and Johnson, the first account, and the same ID is there, but everything else changed on that account. Okay, so if you query the industry, you query what else was there? Phone. So everything else got updated. So this is your technology, this is the phone number you gave, and this is the company. So that is your patch method. Okay. Similarly, the way I have written is the delete method. So what are we doing in the delete? Anybody wants to take a guess at what we are doing here?
We're deleting an account?
Yeah, we're deleting the account. So basically the ID of the account, we are passing it. Okay, so this is the response. Account ID is get last path segment. Now let's explain what this method is doing. Okay, what is this method doing? Can anybody tell me? This method. What is exactly this method is doing?
It's actually splitting all the parts of the URL.
Very good. With this URL, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then?
Yeah. And returning each single part.
And then what are we doing in line number 197?
If it is empty, then null, else parts dot size -1. So whatever that size is, we are reducing 1 from it, and then just returning that.
So
That
what
is,
will
we are returning the slash, not returning the slash, just before the slash, whatever is there.
So what is the output? So if this is the request URI, what it is returning?
Services, Apex REST account. So that ID, whatever the last thing is, that will be returned.
Exactly. This is the ID which is going to be returned. Okay.
Yeah.
So what it is doing, it is basically splitting up this URL with the help of slashes. So it will create separate array list for services, Apex REST, etc. So then what is the size of this array? It will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, right? 5 minus 4, 1, 4. So what will be at the index of 4? Index of 4 is going to be this ID. So that is the ID it is returning. And we are checking, hey, does the ID contain 001 in the beginning? Yes, it does, which means it is a valid ID. If not, this is the response. So let's say if I give a bad ID. So here, if I make a post call and I gave 002 here, okay, and I am making a delete call. So now in the delete, you don't pass a body, you just pass the ID. Now here, if you see here, the response that will come is this: provide a valid account ID in the URL. So if you see here, that's the exact message. It says account ID in the URL, account/v1/account ID. So now if I change it, that particular account will be deleted. Okay. So where was I? This is your account ID would be deleted, and that's it. That's your REST call. Any questions so far?
Yeah, so that section under helper where it says for the string and it's dissecting the string, why does it have to dissect the string like that in order to find the account?
Because how will I know from here, what is the other way of figuring out what is the ID?
Oh, so it's going segment by segment, seeing that's
Yeah, it
a
is trying
valid
to figure out.
URL
Yeah, from
from
this
that
URL,
call.
fetch the ID part. So what is this URL? First, it split up the URL in with the slashes. Then it created a list out of it. And then it basically, this will go index of 0. This will be at index of 1. This is 2, 3, and 4. So it is trying to give you the item at index of 4, which is this ID.
So it's trying to find that ID numbers, but
Yeah.
it just dissected it in order to get to that set.
Exactly. It dissected it and gave you back the ID.
Okay.
Okay. Now, guys, this is, yeah.
Deepika, the URL that you are using right now, I mean, the get last part segment, the example one, right? That you got it, that's the URL you used on the get or post request, right?
The URL is the same, except the method changes. You see here, in the get request, you are passing this endpoint with the ID. But if I'm doing a post request, the URL is still the same, except I'm not passing an ID. I'm making a body request here and I'm passing the body here in a post call. So the URL of the resource is always going to be account/v1. But depending upon, is it a post method, is it a get method, that particular method will be called. Is that what your question was?
No, the URL that you are using in the helper class is the URL that you use to identify the identify the account, right?
Which URL you're talking about?
In the helper class, I mean the example that whatever the
Which one? This one? Or you were talking about this example?
Yeah, this example.
Yeah, it is /services/Apex REST. So see here, /services/Apex REST/account/v1. But it doesn't matter, /account/v1 and then the ID. It's just the ID is different, but yeah, the URL format is the same.
Okay, yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Okay. So this is the difference between a REST and a SOAP, and you will mostly create a REST resource as an assignment. You will call from one Salesforce org to another Salesforce org. You will set up a client ID, get the secret, and then see how to make the call. Okay. Now, so far there's another concept here when you are talking about named credentials. A name credential is Salesforce secure connection that stores the URL of the system. Authentication means what kind of mechanism they're using, or either they're using OAuth, API key, or username password. Okay, so you will specify the authentication mechanism. What is the refresh logic? So in the earlier tutorials, what we were doing, we were making a call to the endpoint. The endpoint was in your Apex class itself. You are passing in the username, you are passing in everything within, which is not a good secured way, right? So name credentials provide you a secured way of authentication. Okay, so you don't have to create separate remote site settings. You don't have to worry about generating tokens or secrets and all of that. Okay, so right now the other systems are calling Salesforce. Now, if you are calling another system, okay, you are calling another system. So what we're going to do is, up till this point, we were just hitting that external system, setting up the endpoint within our Apex class. Now we will not do that. Now what we're going to do is we will create name credentials. Now, why name credentials exist? Without the name credentials, you have to hard code the access tokens. Okay, you have to manually refresh the OAuth tokens. You have to store secrets or key or all of those in Apex class itself, which is not a secure way. And then you have to add remote site settings. When you create a name credential, you don't have to do any of that. Automatically, things will be taken care of, and you don't have to create a separate remote site settings in order for to specify that this is the URL I'm hitting. Okay. Now, when are you going to use name credentials? Whenever you have to make a call to an external API, or you need OAuth or API key or basic auth. These are the way of authentication. And if you want secure, maintainable integrations, you don't want to handle any token creation, all of that, then in that case, you will basically use name credential. It is much more secured way of storing credentials of the external systems, and you don't have to worry about token creation and all that. You just do it and you will save it in the name credential. Now, in order to save the name credential, you can't just directly create a name credential. First, there's a steps involved, okay? And you have to remember the step. First, you will create a name credential. In order to create a name credential, you will have to create an external credential, okay? External credential, you will specify the authentication mechanism. Then you will create a principal inside of the external credential principal, okay? Then you are going to, after the principal, you are going to you created an external credential, you created a principal, and then you are going to create a permission set, because who should have access to this name credential? You will create a permission set. Through the permission set, you will give access to this principal that you created, okay? Give access. And then assign that permission set to the users who will be making the call. So in our case, integration user will get that permission set. So these are all the steps involved when we are creating a name credential. You don't have to remember all of this, because you will automatically see, in order for you to create a name credential, you have to provide an external credential. So first you have to set up external credential. In external credential, you will set up what kind of authentication mechanism it is. Is it OAuth, no authorization, client ID, client secret, username, password? You'll set up those. Then you will set up principal access. Like if you want to have like access token or all that, you will set it up here. Then you will create a permission set to give access to this principal. And then you will go ahead and give this permission set to the user. Okay. Now let's do this in practice so you will understand. So if, let's say, you go to your job and you want to see, hey, what all system am I as this application calling? You go to name credentials and you take a look at it. If they did the right way, they will have name credentials set up. Okay. Then you will know these are the external systems Salesforce is hitting. So any questions so far? Why do we need name credentials? Basically, to keep things secure, rather than hard coding stuff inside of your Apex classes, you created a name credential that will store all the credentials, endpoint, everything. Okay. So now I will go over to Salesforce and I will go to the setup. And here I will create a named credential. So we'll go here. Create name credential. Now, in order to create the name credential, I will have to create an external credential. Okay, so here you have to create an external credential. So what we will do first, we will create an external credential. So click on new here. And let's say we call this as, what is the name? JSON external credential. Okay. And here, just copy the same exact thing. And then authentication protocol. What are the different ways? So there is basic OAuth, basic authentication, which is just like username, password. JWT using the token. Okay. Then you have is no authentication, means you don't have to require any authentication. OAuth 2.0. It could be a browser. It could be client credentials with client secret that we just saw using the connected app. These are the different ways of authentication. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and stick to the simple one for the timing, which is no authentication. Now, what kind of authentication you want to follow? That is something an architect will tell you that, okay, I should be doing something like this. Follow a basic auth, JWT, what? So, or the other system, whoever you are making the call, that system will tell you that, okay, we are making the call JWT, this is the one. Our system, our API doesn't require any authentication. We will stick to no authentication. Then I will create a principal. Okay. So principal, if you have any, you'll set up a parameter name. I'm just giving a principal name, external credential. Okay, and then hit save. And here you will go ahead and give, you're not doing much here, and then we will go to the name credentials and we will create our name credential. Now in the name credential, we'll call it as JSON named credential. And this is your, give a field here, and then this is the name URL. Now, what is the endpoint you are calling? So the endpoint that I'm calling is, this is the endpoint, I believe. What was the endpoint? Completely forgot. 1 second. Oh, this is the one. JSON placeholder type code. Now this one is a very simple one. So here, I'm going to create a new request. Post request post/1. I believe this is the one, making a call. And this is the response it gives. So JSON request. So this is the another system that I'm calling. Okay. So this system gives you back a couple of things: user ID, title, and body. Okay. If I do post 2, it gives me user ID back of ID of 2. This is the title. This is the body. It gives me, I think it's Spanish. So this is the endpoint we are calling. So in our name credential, we will give this endpoint, right? JSON placeholder typecode.com. And this is the exactly one that you're calling, JSON placeholder typecode.com. And then whatever after that, you will provide it through your request. Okay, this is your external JSON external. And then you also, as I mentioned, you need to create a permission set. Okay, so you create a permission set. Let's say we create a new permission set, and because if you don't do that, you will get a call out exception. So here, name credential access. Let's say this is the name of the we are giving. Here we will hit save, and then through this permission set, we will give access to the external credential principal access. These are the steps you have to follow. You can't miss anything. And here, this is your principal access. So we are going to go ahead and hit save. So through this permission set, we are giving access to this principal. And then we will give this permission set to myself or to the integration user in real life. So you will give it to, where is it? To this user. So we'll click on next and assign. And now from our call, we will go over here and we will make this call, JSON placeholder, file, new, Apex class, JSON callout. Click OK. And here we will go ahead and simple. I'm going to create a method here. And now if you want to call your name credential, this is all. You don't have to set up the endpoint. You don't have to set up any authentication, nothing like that, because you already did it through name credential. All you have to do is replace your name credential name, which is this one, name credential. So here you will, where is it? Did we created the name credential or we didn't? Or we didn't create the name credential so far, or did we? We created the external credential. Did we not created it? I thought I created it. So JSON named credential. And then here, this is the name we will give. The URL is, oh, I didn't actually. This was the URL. So I will give this URL and remove all this. And then here, the credential I'm selecting is, this is the external credential. I don't have any certificate, nothing. And we will hit save. And this one, the, what is it called? This is your name credential. So this is the name you will use. So here I will go ahead and replace this call out with this one. So behind the scene, it will invoke this name credential, look at the URL, replace that URL. If it needs authentication, it will do all of that. So at your code, all you have to do is just call that name credential. And this is the way to do it. Call out exactly the name of the name credential, and then what was the end of the URL, what kind of method it is. It is a get method. And now we will go ahead and run this. So you will do a JSON call out debug, and we will call this method. So if you go ahead and hit execute, you will get a response back. Whatever the response you saw in the Postman, the same response came over here. So this is the benefit of using name credential. You don't have to worry about token creation, saving your credentials, all of that. You will do it in the name credential. Any questions, guys? Okay. I want to recommend you guys a one course because see, integration is a huge topic. Okay. And I tried to cover whatever I could. And there is certain points left on platform events and change data capture and all of that. And I'll give you the demo next. But if you want to go and learn in depth on integration, I'm going to recommend you my course. Not expensive, $15, but if you go over to the courses and if you go to the scroll down and here, let me look for integration. Right here, not this one, but this course, Salesforce integration with external systems. This course is a very good course. All I want you to do is just go through the course. You don't have to practice along with me. If you want to practice, you can practice. But if you just want to learn it and you want to know in depth about integration, I have covered pretty much everything from the, where is it? Right here. I'm going to go ahead and send it. Okay, I will highly recommend you to check out this course. This is one of the best courses on integration. Okay, it is 10 hours long. And if you don't understand anything from this course, you let me know. But I've covered REST APIs, I've covered SOAP APIs. Now I'm going to cover some platform events. Okay, so, but if you want to learn in depth about this, you tell me. If you want me to go ahead and do another session on integration, you tell me. But if you have the little bit of time and patience to go through the course, I highly recommend you to do that.
Deepika, I signed up for that course on Udemy some time ago. I never did complete it. Is that the same course?
Yes, it is exactly the same course.
Okay.
You can do it from Udemy or you can do it from my website. Does whatever is convenient for you. But please, if you really want to do excel in integration and want to solve questions on integration, that is one of the best-selling courses on integration. Okay. Now, do you guys want another class on integration? I don't mind doing that, but I would say from here till the next week, if you can do, even if you do an hour and a half every day on that course, then by the end of that 1 week, you will be able to finish up that 10-hour courses. Okay. You don't have to tell me now, but if you want me to take another class on integration, I can do it where we will. So we did both ways. We learned about calling from Postman. We are calling Salesforce. And then we also see how to make calls from Salesforce to other system. Okay. Now there is a concept of platform events. Now, what are platform events? Platform events basically, whenever you have to do the event-based communication, okay? Event-based means, let's say something changed in Salesforce. And there are multiple systems listening to that, and you want multiple systems to get notified. So what you will do at the Salesforce end, you will publish a platform event. Okay? Publish a platform event. And whoever is listening to those platform events, if there can be multiple systems, they can listen to this platform event and they can process the message inside of this platform event. So whenever you have to do event-based communication, near real time, okay, that's when you will use is a platform event or CDC events, which is the change data capture events. Okay, so I did created, let me see. I don't know if you guys, I'm not sure if you guys remembered. I did give a demo of, so what I have here is MuleSoft. So let me open up AnyPoint Studio. Go over to, where is it? C drive. Okay. So here, this is what the end-to-end looks like. Okay, we were doing calls from Postman and all that, but end-to-end, basically, what's going to happen is a change will happen at the Salesforce end. Okay, you will publish an event from Salesforce, and let's say MuleSoft is a middleware which is listening to those events. Okay, and then they will read that event and basically insert it into the database. So from Salesforce, let's say anytime a new order gets placed, you want to notify the order system, or whenever a new lead is created, you also want to create the same lead at the database end or inside of another system, not Salesforce. You are from the Salesforce, you are making a call to an external database, RDBMS or whatever, MySQL or whatever it is, right? So that is when you will use a platform event, when you have to do event-based communication, which is now getting more and more popular, is event-based communication. You publish the events and then you basically listen to those platform events, and then whatever you want to do with those messages, you can either create a record, you can notify another system, all of that. So here I have created, if you go here, there is a Salesforce to DB project that I created. You don't have to learn MuleSoft. I just started learning it just to get an idea. So here I created a Mule project. Okay, Salesforce to DB. Now what this is doing is it is listening to a platform event. So if I go here, it's a pretty heavy application, so it takes some time to load. So this is the connector. So here it is a connect. This is a palette where it has connectors. So if you see here, replay channel listener, this is a connector available in the Mule palette. So it is called replay channel listener. Okay, the first one. So here you first of all connect to the org. So this is Salesforce configuration. So I am connected to a org here, and I've specified my username and password. So here, this is the let me open it up. Okay, so now I am using basic authentication. You can choose multiple different types of authentication. You can use client credentials. You can use OAuth 2.0, JWT, username, password. Depending upon that, it will ask you for different things. Okay, so let's say if I created a different connection, you will, this is a basic authentication, so it is asking me for a username, password, and a security token. If you were doing JWT, it will ask you for a different thing. If you were using client credentials, it will ask you for client ID, client secret, all of that. So I'm using basic authentication. I hope okay. So now this is the call I'm making. And then I am listening to this lead created event. So anything that ends with __C, it means it is a platform event. And platform event is just similar to a custom object, And the purpose of a platform event is basically to do event-based communication, means use that platform event to send data through a channel. Okay. So through this MuleSoft is listening to this event. Okay. And then it is transforming that message into a format like this: lead ID, first name, last name, email, company. So whatever the event came from Salesforce, it converts that event into something like this. And then it is doing an insert into the database. So I have a database, a MySQL database. And this MySQL database is basically have these table called leads table. So this is my connection, and it is connecting to a database which is available on the Amazon. Okay. And MySQL Workbench is a client to connect to that database. Okay. So here I have a table created called leads table. And here, get rid of this, and I'm going to select 1,000 rows. And then here I'm executing it. And these are all the different leads that I have in this table. Okay. So now I'm going to start my server. So here I'm going to run this project, Salesforce to DB. Okay. And then inside of my Salesforce, I created a platform event. So here, just like you create a standard Salesforce object, you create a platform event. And inside of the platform event, you add fields, etc. And then you basically, the platform event ends with __e. Okay. And then whenever a change happens, you publish that platform event. So here in the setup, this is your platform event. Okay. So I created this event, lead created event. This is the name of the platform event. And on this event, this is the __e that tells you it's a platform event. And it has these fields: company, email, first name, last name, and lead ID. Okay. And then I have a trigger on this particular lead object. Okay. So there is a trigger on the lead object. So anytime a lead record is inserted into Salesforce, it is going to invoke this trigger. So what kind of trigger will it be? Will it be after insert, before insert? What kind of trigger it will be?
Before?
No, you wanted to send a platform event once the lead is created. So it's going to be an after event.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because you wanted to trigger it when the record has been inserted into the database. So file, new, what was the trigger? File, open resource. And here I would say, I think lead, let me see if I even have the trigger available now. Okay, so if I go to triggers, oh, I don't have the trigger. So basically, there was a trigger which published that platform event. So anytime a lead record gets created, an event gets published, and that particular event is being listened by this channel, and then the message gets transformed, and then it gets inserted into the database. So all the end-to-end integration, this is how it's going to work. Okay, there are different ways I told you. You can do a REST or SOAP call to another system, or the other system can make a call to your system. You've already seen how to do that. Or you can use platform events to do event-based communication. And then there are different authentication methods. There is OAuth, there is JWT, there is client credentials. It is just a way of authorizing. Okay. So this is it for today's tutorial. Do you guys have any questions? And what do you want me to go further into authentication mechanisms? Or I would like to know your opinions. Is this something you want to do it, learn it a little bit yourself? Do you want me to cover it? How do you want to do it?
I want to learn more on integrations, Deepika. That's my opinion.
Okay. So
Yeah.
few more, like I can cover bulk APIs in the next session. What else?
Yes, we'd like to learn more from you. It will be better. I mean, when you explain it, it's easy to understand.
Okay. I will do another session on more of what we did. We'll do another step on integration where we will have some headers, authentication. So right now I covered basic authentication. We can do a little bit more on the authentication pieces.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Deepika, also on the big object, right? So when it is used and then why it is used, right?
Big object, I haven't heard, to be very honest now. It is just
Okay.
there was a big deal a couple of years ago, but people haven't used big object in a long time. Okay, what else, guys?
How many more classes are
Recursion
we can?
example, Deepika, that you
Huh?
could recursion
Oh,
example.
yes, recursion is left. Yes, I will try to get that recursion, how to prevent recursion in triggers. Okay. What else, guys? And I think I also need to cover dynamic apex, which is describe as object and all that. That is one topic that is left.
And the test classes.
Oh, yes, test classes. Okay. So you want one. So let's do another session on integration next week. And then we will go to dynamic apex and test classes the next day. Okay. And then we will, if you have other things that you want me to cover, let me know. I will make sure I cover it. I am traveling on the 20th week, but I think I might not be able to take the class on Saturday, but I'll see you on Sunday.
And
Okay,
do we know how many more classes we're going to have, like in weekdays and the weekends? How many more do you expect to have?
maybe another two weekends. That should be it. But if you keep on adding, like I want this also, then I'll just have to take that classes. But my syllabus was integration was there, dynamic, like base the complete apex that you have. But then if you're little small topics, if those also you want me to cover, then it might take another week just to get all everything. But whatever I thought that I should be covering, and as a developer, you should know, I pretty much, uh, after all these like dynamic apex test class, I pretty much covered, I would say, 85 to 90% of the course. There might be small things here and there that you might come across, but I think I've made you capable enough to understand things on your own as well. That's what I thought, because it is vast, and I try to cover everything as much possible, but then I also feel that you are capable to learn few things on your own, and that's how
Right.
it should be. uh, if I keep on spoon feeding everything, then you're not going to learn it. So you should also, I will cover the topics that you have mentioned, but you should also get into a habit of covering it yourself. That course that I'm recommending on integration, I highly, I haven't told in these last 2 months to buy my course, but that is one course I've spent a lot of time and effort, and it's a pretty good course on integration if you want to learn about integration. So if you want to learn more on integration after my next class, then I highly encourage you to watch that.
Okay, so next weekend you're traveling, the 20th, 21st. We're not having class
So
then, right?
21st we will have class, not on 20th.
Okay, so 21st we'll have the class. And then 27th and 28th maybe, or who knows?
27th and 28th we will have the class.
What
Christmas
about weekdays?
Weekdays will be the same, except the Christmas Day, which is
Okay.
the evening of 24th and 25th.
Those we will not have.
Yeah,
Okay,
because I don't
weekdays.
want to take away.
Right. I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Deepika, is it possible we can start LWC parallel to these classes, or we have to wait to complete this?
That's a good question. I have to reach out to the instructor. You can start, but will that be overwhelming? Like when will you?
No, I think we should, because already it's getting delayed. So, I mean, if these two topics are
Now
not
it doesn't.
correlated, or
Now I
yeah,
kind of gave you a good
right, the
yeah,
basis
basis
done. So if
strong.
we can start, at least, I mean, 1 hour will be fine. At least I want to start something with LWC now.
What about other
Can
people?
no, I mean my suggestion. I mean for me, I would think that okay, if we start in New Year, right? So
Yeah.
since we'll have some time to kind of go over and then catch up, right? There are a few things we missed or we are not sure, so
Yeah,
we
that's
wanted
what
to
I was
catch up.
thinking, Manisha. I was
Yeah,
thinking of doing it in the first week of January because I won't give at least few days break to people because doing this whole commitment for 2, 3 months is a lot. I was thinking at least first or second week of January if you can start, and it will take about
No, second week, please, please. It's
first
getting too delayed. I mean,
guys,
my
it's one
personal opinion is,
piece of
if you do it continuously, it's always better than taking breaks.
uh okay, I have to check out because LWC I'm not taking, the instructor is taking, and not everybody is part of the LWC class. So whoever is part of it who wants to join it, just enroll. But I would, okay, first week of January we can think of.
Do you need to know JavaScript to be able to take
He will
the,
teach it. He will teach JavaScript.
pardon me?
An instructor will cover a little bit on JavaScript as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking the LWC, but I would prefer the first week of January. I want to complete
Okay.
hands-on work on this, by myself, and while you are covering rest of the stuff.
Yeah, I think first week of January would be good, and by the time our developer would be completely finished. See, guys, it's not getting delayed from my side. It's more of because it's just I could jump up and then just finish off in one day and say, "Hey, you are done." But I don't want to do that. So I know it's taking a little bit time, but it's just because it is vast, and we want to cover at least majority of the topics.
No, that's totally fine. It's just I don't want breaks now. I mean, we are
Okay.
not that small kids, right? That we
Okay,
need breaks.
let's do first week of January then.
Yeah.
Okay, first week of January, that's the time. And then next Saturday won't be the possible. Let me see.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule 1 second. Um, I believe it's in the. Yeah, I'll let you know, but 90% it won't be possible because I'm traveling on the same day. Uh, this is October 5th.
If you want to prepone the class or anything, I mean, if it is possible for you with your schedule, it's fine.
Yeah, this is yeah, it is kind of sitting at 9:25 a.m. Yeah, we can do we'll do Sunday and we will finish off integration. But if you want possible, go through the course and then we will wrap up integration in the next class.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then there's just only 1 weekend more of syllabus left after that from my side. But if you come across more things, then if you want to continue it, then that's up to you. But from my side, after next week, there is only 1 weekend worth of stuff left.
Okay, so then that means we
Code
can start
code
with.
classes and code coverage is important, I feel.
Which is going to be covered in the test classes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the next weekend will be integration. Okay. Then you have test classes and dynamic apex left in the next weekend, which is 2 weekends. I think that is more than enough. So around 28th, I'm thinking of finishing it up. And then January 3rd, we can start LWC.
Yes, it sounds good then.
And you're going to connect us with that person who.
Yeah, he will be doing it through the same Zoom classes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And I will be there on the class as well, just to see he's pretty good in LWC, but I just wanted to make sure everybody following him.
Great. Okay.
Okay, guys, and
yeah,
don't mind
Deepika,
me. Yeah.
So the AI course, right? So you recently kind of put, is that available in Udemy also, or only on
Everything
your
is
site?
available in Udemy.
Okay, AI specialist, not the associate. So that's also
Yes,
there,
AI
right?
specialist, and there is a cursor course with the Agentforce vibes that is also available on Udemy, which gives you
Okay.
like helping with Visual Studio Code and Agentforce together. Then
Oh,
you don't, we can just write prompts and ask it to create a class and all that.
okay.
So,
Thanks.
guys, if you don't mind, please provide a feedback. That'll help me to improve classes. You can send me a one-on-one message. My goal would be if you can put it on Google, that will be the best. But if you can just let me know, okay, this is something I missed or I wanted to cover, I'm here for you. So I'm not leaving you anywhere. If you want me to do anything extra, please reach out to me.
Thank you so much. We
Okay.
really appreciate it.
Okay, guys, I will talk to you next Sunday.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I just have a personal question. Like, I mean, this developer course and also the LWC, right? What would be your recommendations for people like who are just starting the developer? Is this enough, or LWC
LWC
also?
is needed. LWC is definitely needed.
Okay.
Yeah, LWC is definitely needed because see, we just talked about so far the backend stuff of it. You can't develop anything without a UI. So UI is also required. So LWC is definitely needed. As a good Salesforce developer, market is pretty tight. So you can't leave topics. So you have to make sure you know LWC, you know Apex, you know you have a good understanding of flows. All that is needed.
Deepika, how about Visual Force pages? Do they
Pages that are
still?
nah, it's nobody asked them about Visual Force.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to put effort in learning Visual Force. Okay, so flows, integration, Apex, and LWC. Okay, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll talk to you next weekend. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.